Good afternoon to all the participants on this side, and good morning to all the attendees from Latin America. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for another edition of IRENA's Insights webinar series. My name is Cris Liguerra, and I'm part of the Renewable Energy Roadmaps team of IRENA's Innovation and Technology Center, based in Bonn, Germany. For those who are joining for the first time, I would like to introduce you both IRENA and our webinar series. IRENA is an intergovernmental organization with currently 167 member countries, plus other 17 countries which are in their ascension process. We support these countries in their transition to a sustainable energy future and serve as the principal platform for international cooperation, a center of excellence, and a repository of policy, technology, resource, and financial knowledge on renewable energy. Now, our analytical work and our engagement with our members generates plenty valuable insights. Therefore, we're constantly looking for more ways to share those insights with you, including this webinar series, which we run every other week, typically on Tuesdays. We started in January 2020 before pandemics increased considerably the number of virtual events. And up to date, we have organized more than 40 webinars on various topics. You can check them all on our IRENA web events website and YouTube channel. We are aware that there are many other longer deep dive webinars available, but our aim is to keep this webinar short, taking around 30 minutes. This means that we won't be able to cover everything, but the idea is to give you enough to decide whether you would actually delve deeper into the topic. Moreover, we include in our presentations further sources of additional in-depth information to help you do that. Next slide, please. So today, in the next 30 minutes or so, while you enjoy your favorite hot drink, we're going to hear from my colleagues, Maria Vicente Garcia and Sean Collins, both energy analysts from the Renewable Energy Roadmaps team, better known as REmap. In March, IRENA published the first of a series of regional renewable energy roadmap studies, starting with Central America. The Renewable Energy Roadmap for Central America towards a regional energy transition includes a series of scenarios developed to provide innovative and alternative decarbonizing solutions while gradually increasing the country's ambitions. It explores the role of end-use sector's electrification, the feasible expansion of renewable generation, energy efficiency solutions, as well as the importance of expanding the existing regional power sector integration. Specific sector technological pathways, investment opportunities, and tailored actions are important outcomes that will enrich the regional debate and help accelerate the energy transformation. Next slide, please. So before I hand over the floor to Maria and Sean, I will just briefly mention a few usual housekeeping items, which you are certainly familiar from our other online events. So you are currently on mute. If you have questions for our speakers, please use the Q&A function. Next slide, please. We are recording the webinar, and we will post the recording and slides on the IRENA's events website within the next 48 hours. And also, don't forget to provide us your feedback in the short survey, which will be available after the webinar. So, continue with our presentation. Let me welcome our speakers for today. Good afternoon, Maria and Sean. The floor is all yours.
Good afternoon, good morning. Thank you very much. And well, as previously mentioned, my name is Maria Vicente, and I'm working in IRENA's REmap team in the development of regional energy transition outlooks, and in particular in the one of Central America, which was recently published this year. So for this presentation, I will firstly walk you through the different stages of the project, and later we will have a look at the main results of the same. So first of all, we did a case study by country in which we defined 4 energy scenarios for the period between 2018 and 2050. So these were the base, which is the base energy scenario, and considers the existing policies in the base year along all over the period. The PES, which is the plant energy scenario, considers existing policies in the base year in 2018, and also the targets and objectives that have already been approved by the countries. The TES is the transforming energy scenario and describes a more ambitious pathway in terms of technology maturity and investment. And the TES is the decarbonising energy scenario, which describes a more ambitious transforming energy scenario that further reduces CO2 emissions. So in this presentation, for the interest of time, we will just be focusing on the results of the PES and the DES scenarios. So then we proceed to model the energy demand, and we did it with the REmap activity tool, which is an in-house tool that allowed us to model the residential and commercial building sector, the passenger and cargo transport sector, and the industry sector. Once we got the results for the energy demand, we modeled the power sector with the optimization tool message. And then once we obtained those results, we did a flexibility analysis with IRENA's FlexTool in order to check that there were no flexibility issues in the results that we obtained by message. So after we obtained all of these different results, we prepared some slide decks with the results by sector and went to the second phase of this project, which was the country engagement. So we had on average 3 virtual meetings with each of the 7 countries in the Central American region in order to expose the results that we obtained and to get their feedback. So then after this, we did some model adjustments when necessary based on the feedback. And then we shared the results again for final validation. So once we had this final validation, we did the regional analysis in which we did an analysis of the energy supply and demand, also an investment analysis, and then we prepared the final report, a dashboard, and also other deliverables. So during the process, we did not only engage with countries of the region, but also with regional institutions such as SICA, LADE, IDB, UNEP, and ECLAC, from which we also received valuable inputs and feedback. During this time, we got to have 2 face-to-face meetings right before the beginning of the pandemic, and then the rest of the meetings, as I mentioned, were online. Also, we participated and are still participating in some regional events in order to foster the discussion about the energy transition in the region. So when we were working on the analysis, we always had in mind the main challenges that the region is currently facing and that is expected to address in the coming years. So these challenges, the key ones that we identified are to provide universal access to electricity and clean cooking technologies and fuels, also to increase the use of local renewable resources and by adopting the new renewable technologies and therefore increasing the country's energy security. Also by the adoption of these renewable technologies, the CO2 emissions can be reduced and also the local pollution. And also the adoption of renewables can contribute to the decrease of fossil fuel imports and its related payments. Lastly, we also identified the need of increase of local investment and to stimulate the local economy. So after doing the analysis, we concluded that the roadmap brings benefits to the region that could help address all of these major challenges at similar costs as current plans. So here we can see the power sector cumulative investment, and we can see that in the PES and in the DES scenario, and we can see that in the DES, this investment is quite similar to the one in PES. It is slightly higher, mainly due to a higher investment in new installed capacity. And this is due to the need of supply further electricity derived from the electrification of energy services in end-use sectors. However, we can see that this increase in investment in new installed capacity, it is compensated by a lower fuel cost due to the use of more renewable energy sources. Similarly, in the end-use sectors, cumulative cost, we can see that the acquisition costs are slightly higher in the DES than in the PES. However, these costs are compensated with the fuel costs, which are lower due to the utilization of energy efficient technologies and also to the direct use of renewables in the end-use sector, such as the solar water heaters for water heating. So now, after this brief introduction to the project, let's have a look at the main results that we obtained. So we group the main results in 5 key pillars of the energy transition for Central America. So these key pillars are the expansion of renewables in electricity generation, the expansion of the interconnection grid. So these two are about the power sector, and my colleague will talk about them in a few minutes. And then we have sustainable mobility, modern cooking technologies, and energy efficiency. So let's start with sustainable mobility. So the electrification of the fleet will be crucial to reduce transport sector emissions by around 70% compared to the effect of current plans. We can see that here in this figure, where the emissions in 2050, according to paves, will reach around 60 million tons of CO2, while in the DES will reach around 18 million tons of CO2. Also, an interesting fact that we can observe here in this figure, it is that in 2018 and during all the period in the PES scenario, passenger transport sector will account for around 75% of the emissions. However, in 2050 in this share will be decreased to 54%. And among other reasons, this is due to a high electrification of the passenger fleet, which will reach a share of 80% by 2050 in this scenario. The share for the electrification for the cargo fleet will be of 54%. So in order to reach these targets, cumulative costs of $486 billion are needed. And this could cover both fleet acquisition, which will be the main part of it, and also infrastructure. And well, apart from considering these electrification solutions, we also consider other different measures, such as the biofuels blending in gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel, the modal change from private vehicles to public ones and bicycles, and also the introduction of green hydrogen trucks. So some actions that we proposed for promoting the sustainable mobility in the region are the development of infrastructure for charging points of electric vehicles at both national and regional level. Also, the development of programs for the promotion of electric vehicles, both public and private. And also the design of solutions and tariff schemes for smart charging and regional regulation. So let's go now to the second pillar, which is modern cooking technologies. So in order to achieve universal access to clean cooking technologies and fuels, the introduction of electric stoves and improved cooking stoves will be key. And an increase of these technologies by around 9 times in 2050 with respect to 2018, it is expected in the DES scenario. In order to reach this, average annual investment in electric and improved stoves of around $395 million per year will be needed. So here in the figure, we can see how in 2018, 37% of the households in Central America were still using traditional cooking stoves. This share is expected to decrease to 27% in 2050 in the PES scenario and to 1% in the DES scenario in 2050. We can see that in this year, the most representative technology are expected to be electric stoves and will represent 57% from just 11% in 2018. So in order to reach this target, the deployment of 230,000 units per year during the 2021 and 2030 period and of 330,000 units per year during the 2030 and 2050 period will be needed. So some actions that we propose for the promotion of modern cooking technologies in the region could be the development of regional plans for the promotion of improved cook stoves and also electric cooking, and also making finance available for the acquisition of more efficient equipment. Now we will have a look at the third pillar, which is energy efficiency. So the cumulative cost of energy efficiency measures could be $8.3 billion to reduce energy intensity in 43% by 2050. So we can see here in the graph on the left that the energy intensity in PES in 2050 is expected to be of 4 terajoules per million $, while the index is expected to decrease to around 2.3 terajoules per million $. So this will be possible with average energy efficiency costs of around $260,000 per year. We can see here in the graph on the right the distribution of these energy efficiency costs. And we can see that in the DES, the great part of them will be in the commercial sector for space cooling, so efficient air conditioners and also efficient appliances. Currently in the region, there are some initiatives in order to define energy efficiency standards for high consumption equipment and sustainable building codes, and these were considered in the PES scenario. Also, in the DES, we consider a more ambitious energy efficiency indexes. So some actions that we propose for the promotion of energy efficiency in the region could be continuing labeling and setting minimum standards for electrical equipment, particularly for air conditioners and refrigerators. Also making finance available for the acquisition of this more efficient equipment. Also to characterize the industry sector and be able to define specific energy efficiency measures and direct use of renewables solutions, and also setting minimum standards and emissions limits for vehicles. So now I would like to hand over the floor to Sean, who will continue with talking about the two remaining pillars of the power sector. So Sean, over to you.
Thank you very much, Maria, for that detailed walkthrough of all the initial results, all the final results, and these help us understand the increasing importance of the role of electricity in the energy system of tomorrow for Central America. And this is particularly true and helps using such an approach based on close consultation with regional and national experts, using multiple tools such as a bottom-up demand modeling tool, so we can see at a household level the refrigeration required, lighting, motor transport. These help us understand the needs of each country going forward, how they can be addressed by various technologies. And for assessing the power sector, then we look at using two separate models, one to analyze the capacity expansion of the system up to 2050, and another to analyze at an hourly level what this means in terms of system operation. So we propose these high levels of renewables for 2050. What does that mean in terms of system operation? Congestion on lines, curtailment of renewables that can't be used because they cannot get to the demand centers at the time they are produced. So, and in this case here, I'm presenting the expansion of renewables out to 2050 in our range of scenarios. So the planned energy scenario, the transforming energy scenario, and the decarbonising energy scenario. And one key factor in each is the expansion of renewables. But to achieve the level projected in the decarbonising energy scenario, which increases to beyond 90% by 2050 compared to 67% today, will require actions and will require investment in decarbonising and clean energy technologies, which out to 2050 are anticipated to be about 75 billion. And in terms of annual investment, this is quite a step up from what is required in the planned energy scenario. So it goes from 1.3 billion per year in the planned energy scenario, PES, to 2.6 billion per year in DES. And along with this, in the decarbonising energy scenario in particular, solar rooftop PV generation covers 10% of electricity demand in buildings, which reduces local transmission needs and makes many households self-sufficient to a great degree in electricity. But actions are needed to scale these up across the region. And I'll discuss this further in the second panel in terms of the regional interconnection expansion that's needed. But first of all, to expand renewables, there needs to be financing of feasibility studies for the development of a portfolio of renewable-based generation and transmission projects across the region. So this is to help us understand where the renewables are, which are the key projects that can and need to be developed at a more granular level, project by project, and then that'll just feed into an investment case for them, because it's without such analysis, it's hard to develop projects on such a level. And also de-risking and adjusted contract models to reduce the cost of capital and promote investment in these technologies. So essentially to accommodate and stimulate investment in these technologies, this is a key component. Implementation of regulations to ensure there's harmony across the region and an integrated market will also be key. And also, of course, further regional expansion of interconnection. And that brings me to the fifth pillar. Next slide, please. Now, the current grid, the current CAPAC line is about 300 megawatts, and that spreads across all Central American countries, apart from Belize. And this is a key enabler of more integrated system operation and in actually achieving the levels of renewables we actually see in the decarbonized energy scenario. So this directly allows a higher level of ambition to be achieved, and actually ultimately, so that's in terms of both renewables and emissions. It allows broader application of flexibility solutions, and ultimately it allows robust system operation across the region even with low hydro availability, because it allows for effective sharing of renewable of generation sources, so renewable and non-renewable, for the provision of energy and non-energy services to keep the lights on, to keep the frequency in check, etc. So it allows broader sharing and actually ultimately lower cost power system operation and power system planning, and it allows for the avoidance of duplication of various efforts across the region in each country, because such resources can be shared. And interestingly enough, in terms of the cumulative investment in grids, the CAPAC expansion, actually the cost is, while 6% of 27 billion is still a very substantial amount of investment, proportionally to out to 2050, it is not as significant as a share of the overall costs. And this allows a reduction of the marginal system cost across the region of the order 70% in most countries, purely on the level of ability to share renewable energy resources and generation sources and flexibility assets across the region. So this brings us back to the actions required to achieve this. So financing of studies to understand the expansion of the grid, what is needed, what projects can be enacted across the countries, regional projects for integration of energy storage. So in a similar way to generation asset storage, can also provide generation and can improve system reliability, especially with high shares of variable renewables, and closer integration of functioning of day-ahead market and regional dispatch can ultimately allow this to be achieved through deeper integration system operation. Can allow this in the day-ahead market or various system service markets to be met at lower cost, and ultimately help the goals, help in the achievement of the capacities projected in particular into decarbonising energy scenario and unlocking the renewable energy potential of about 180 gigawatts. Next slide, please. Now, and this slide focuses on kind of, again, reiterating the point of the importance of the expansion of the grid, but rather from the perspective of flexibility. And that flexibility is increasingly enabled because of the interconnection. It allows broader provision of system services across the region. And as an example of this, in the right hand side, it's possible to see on the top the system as expanded under the DES scenario, with a 2 gigawatt line and the amount of storage required in that system, based on our FlexTool analysis, which is our own proprietary tool, but which is open source. And also the bottom shows the amount of storage required to achieve a similar scenario, but with much lower interconnections. So this is a good example and visible demonstration of the benefits of increased interconnection in that Increased interconnection means that less storage is required because there's less duplication of these service provision efforts in this, as this shows. But also what's required is the effective operation of batteries and electric vehicles to facilitate the higher deployment of renewables, achieve emissions reductions, and ultimately decrease marginal price and smart system operation across the region. And this is particularly true given the high amounts of electrification of electric vehicles in the roadmap. It's important that these electrification strategies go hand in hand with smart electrification strategies to help ensure that these storage assets on the system can be charged flexibly and actually can lead to improved system operation rather than be necessarily an inhibitor of system operation. Installation of energy storage systems to integrate renewables, and this can happen either at a utility scale or at a lower household level. And ultimately using smart flexibility strategies through time of use rates to promote electricity use when it's available and disincentivize it when availability is lower or cost is higher, and also through smart integration technologies and strategies such as as aggregators. Next slide, please. So, and this is just an overview of one particular week where in 2050, in our analysis, where hydro ramping requirements are very significant. And you can see over just a short few hours, when the sun sets, there is a rapid increasing and decreasing of power at the same time. And this is complemented by storage and smart charging of electric vehicles. And this helps alleviate peak hours and helps supply meet demand, and also minimize curtailment, which, as you can see here in red, is largely an inherent part of a highly renewable power system. But actually with smart strategies, it can be minimized to make that energy useful. And you can see here that the very significant ramping will require significant coordination and smart operation of system assets by 2050. But this of course is possible with regional coordination, deep market integration across the region, and ultimately will help take advantage of solar power, which has become one of the lowest cost power sources available today. And with all the positive energy security implications that has, because solar power is, once the technology is installed, the energy source is local. So it essentially improves energy security in that fashion, and then of course can create significant employment in the installation and development of such technologies across the region. So thank you very much. Next slide, please. Now, yeah, these are just some final remarks. We had very strong country engagement throughout the process, as Maria said, and as I alluded to also, and this helped analyze the results in terms of their coherency across the region, and ultimately helped us understand and refine the roadmap. And this roadmap is actually online in an interactive Power BI dashboard where you can deep dive into the results that we presented here today. And this data is driving concrete actions by actually analyzing in a data-rich way the best way to meet and support concrete objectives and plans within the region. And given the significant financial investment needed, availability of funds will be key in actually allowing such projects to prosper, in addition to actually project assessment and analysis in the expansion of generation projects, as I discussed. Regional collaboration, in particular in the power sector, will play a key role. And also in terms of the broader energy system, in terms of sharing of best practices and resources. Now, in terms of further next steps, this analysis was only recently published this year. So we are looking for further collaboration with the Inter-American Development Bank as part of our RELAC initiative, which looks to focus on achieving 70% renewable generation capacity in a host of Latin American countries by 2030. And to this end, we are collaboratively sharing results of the assessment with them, participating in a wide range of regional events to keep the discussion going and to assist in any way possible in the expansion and achieving of the goals outlined in this roadmap. So that brings my brief discussion to an end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria and Sean. There's definitely vast information in the report to be used by regional policymakers, as well as technical staff interested in reviewing the Power BI dashboard that was developed for this. Also, thank you very much for the insights. As we have heard, keywords from this project for the energy transition are integrated planning and regional collaboration. So next slide, please. We're heading up already to the 30 minutes. We can have at least one of the questions in our Q&A session. So here we have one related to the role of install capacity of wind. Maybe Sean can take this one. So yeah, this is related to the potential of actually of the wind in the region. So why is the role of install capacity of wind so marginal compared to solar PV in the scenarios?
This is actually owes to the general low level of resource in the region, and actually it's in comparison to the very high level of solar PV. And the rich resource and high capacity factors we receive there based on the renewable energy potential assessment that was underdone. So essentially the wind speeds in general, whilst there may be pockets, it remains marginal as a whole.
Okay, so let's continue with other questions. There's one, well, you already talked about the regional market and supporting the 2 gigawatt. Oh, this is a good one. Where can we find the dashboard and document? I think that, yeah, Maria and Sean, either of one of you could share that info with us.
Yeah, maybe I can just go for that one. So the report and the dashboard is already available in our website, and you will also find a link in the slides when we share them. The report is available both in English and in Spanish as well. So yeah, I hope that you will find that useful.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Well, I think we can wrap up already. Any other question or inquiries that you have, you can check it definitely in the report, and also, as Maria mentioned, in the dashboard, there you can find like really detailed information of both the energy sectors and the power sector. So with that, I would like to thank Maria and Shine for the time and for sharing us with various insights for the REmap FlexTool analysis of Central America. Just one final notification to our participants. The REmap team is currently developing the correspondent analysis for South America. So please keep in tune with our news and publications website. So that would be all from us for today. I would like to thank you all for joining this webinar, for listening and for your questions. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Goodbye and see you soon.
Thank you very much. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Thanks, everyone.